Holiday Bowl bound Rams.
Ram fans have witnessed some amazing moments in the recent past. Ram football has already brought home the trophy from the Jim Thorpe Classic at Virginia. The bronze boot once again stays at Colorado State, and for the third time in 4 years, the Centennial Cup resides in Fort Collins. Tonight, we step back to celebrate some of the people who have played major roles in paving the way to where we are today. Athletes who have helped build a tradition of greatness, and boosters who help form a foundation of success that today's athlete can draw inspiration from.
Oh, Rams block the punt. It's Justin Gallimore, and he will score the touchdown. Unbelievable.
Last season, Ram football went to a bowl game for the third year in a row, and once again came home with a trophy. Women's basketball once again won the conference championship and went to the NCAA tournament. Ram volleyball won the Mountain West Conference championship and qualified for the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament in dramatic fashion. The great volleyball played at Colorado State today echoes the success from the 80s when Cindy Cox-Bellin served as the greatest setter to ever notch an assist at Colorado State.
I'm really proud of where the program's at. They remind me of a lot of our team. They seem to play well together. They seem to all get along. They seem really committed to what they're doing.
4 times Cindy and her teammates made postseason appearances. She still holds the school records for single match, single season, and career assists.
I truly believe that Cindy is one of the greatest athletes, as well as people that I've ever had the great fortune of playing with. Volleyball is a very intelligent game, and she really understands the game and understood what needed to be done by each player on our team as well as what was happening on their team.
I guess some of my favorite memories were beating BYU. BYU was always ranked higher than us, and so to go to beat BYU was huge, and I think we did it once while I was at CSU, and it was just the biggest highlight of my career.
3 of Cindy's teammates precede her in the Hall of Fame, and all of them owe a debt of gratitude to her.
There's no doubt in my mind that Cindy made all of us look good every single night. We had a practice, every single night we had a match. She just made it seem effortless. I think she's one of the greats that really Colorado State should be proud to have had in their program.
In 1969, the Western Athletic Conference Gymnastic Championships were held in Moby Arena, and Ron Beretta emerged as the all-around champion while leading the Rams to the team title.
He was one of the early WAC champions in the all-around, which is the best, the best of the athletes are in the all-around, and that was really quite an accomplishment.
To actually have the WAC championship here at CSU, then to win it as a team, and to win the all-around, which that was also an upset. I had probably one of my better meets of the year.
It was actually the first WAC title CSU ever won was in men's gymnastics, and he was the leader of that team.
The team went on to earn a 4th place finish in the NCAAs.
I'm glad he has finally been inducted and is a good representative of our whole program.
Ron later taught and coached at Poudre High School and led both the girls and boys teams to 3 second-place finishes at the state meet. Like many others in the Hall of Fame, he got his start in the South College gym.
When I first came to CSU, we trained in the South College Avenue gym, and I vividly remember as well Coach Williams out coaching basketball and just giving those basketball players holy hell, and we're back there trying to be quiet because we didn't want to make him any madder than he was.
Call it! Call it charging foul! Call it charging foul! Where's your cut?
Great balls of fire!
Coach Jim Williams' run of great basketball teams began in the 1950s. Coach always felt confident putting the ball in the hands of number 44, Larry Hoffner.
He was a rebounder. He could steal the basketball. We didn't shoot three-pointers in those days, so we went to the basket. And I mean, if you were in his way, why, you better be square because you'd take a bump.
He probably got the most out of all of us, the best aspects of all the athletes that played. And you have to give him a lot of credit for that.
Get ready now, go cat, go, but don't you step on
You couldn't find a harder worker than Larry Hoffner. That was both on the court and after the court. Well, I can't say enough good about him because he's top-notch.
Now, hold still, Lindsay.
Today, Dr. Hoffner still maintains a busy veterinary practice. He thinks his time in vet school and in the South College gym helped mold who he is today.
The memories are unbelievable when it really brings you back to real life that, hey, you didn't get here by yourself. The other guys were just as important and still are important to me as me getting this honor.
The women's swimming program has enjoyed many wonderful moments in recent times, but it all traces back to the 60s and 70s when Coach Nancy O'Connor began to build a powerhouse. Arriving in Fort Collins in 1974 as the first woman to receive a full-ride scholarship, Brenda Strawn Jackson was a real groundbreaker for women's athletics at Colorado State.
And I think at the time, I didn't realize how big a deal it was. But looking back on it now, it means more to me now, I think, than it did then.
A groundbreaker, too, in terms of her level of swimming. That led to more and more good swimmers wanting to come to our program. Brenda set all of the backstroke records at Colorado State. All-American honors every year.
Under Coach O'Connor, the swim team had many national records, regional titles, and top 10 finishes, and Brenda was right in the middle of it all.
I'll tell you, Brenda could swim all of the strokes, back, breaststroke, butterfly, freestyle. I could put her in any event.
Back then, swimming was my life. It meant everything to me. I mean, everything revolved around swimming.
Today, swimming is a distant memory, and her life revolves around family. While at CSU, Brenda was named All-American for 4 straight years and qualified for the Olympic team trials in 1976. She gives much of the credit for her success to Coach O'Connor.
She was the reason I was there. She was the reason I got my scholarship. You know, she was definitely a big influence.
When you have them for 4 years, you feel a lot for them. And Brenda was certainly one of the best.
As a member of the football, basketball, track, and wrestling teams, George Jones earned 12 varsity letters while at Colorado A&M. He was named All-Conference in 3 of those sports.
In fact, at the time that George lettered in all those sports, it was because he truly was an outstanding athlete.
George, he was a man that was so athletic and talented that he played out of position. They had George playing a defensive end. He should have been a cornerback or safety. And he had this ability to be blocked by bigger people and respond and make tackles.
Many thought George was the greatest all-around athlete at Colorado A&M. And one of those who sang the praises of George Jones was Fum McGraw.
When George and Fum were playing football on the same football team, and Fum said, George Jones is the best football player on this team.
In those days, an African American athlete wasn't necessarily welcome on a college campus.
George told me to come up there, that things were changing, and, you know, be one of the pioneers.
The coaches and the program up there were looking for athletes who could do the job and didn't care about the color of the skin.
But perhaps the greatest legacy of George Jones lies in the athletes who followed him to Fort Collins and paved the way for young African Americans to go to college.
Through him came Alex and Donnie Wilson, and through Donnie Wilson and Alex came the rest of us. Positive influence on young men coming up, as you know, we kept following, almost like a chain reaction effect.
Okay, good to see you.
Whether they're up early for the homecoming pancake breakfast or parading down Bourbon Street with the Colorado State faithful, it's a familiar sight to see the smiling faces of Jim and Nadine Henry at any Colorado State event.
Behind every good man, there's a good woman, and those two are inseparable. I've never known them to be separated. Wherever they go, there's Jim and Nadine are always there together.
Well, that's nice to hear that. We're pretty good friends after all these years.
At the home of Jim and Nadine, Ram pride emanates from the walls.
And all the pictures around.
Last year, Jim and Nadine were named the Alumni of the Century. Tonight, we recognize Jim Henry with the Hall of Honor Award.
When Ryan Yoder called and said that Jim was going to get this award, I turned and told Jim this, and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "Oh, I don't deserve this. I haven't done anything."
In the family of Colorado State fans, athletes, boosters, and alumni, Jim and Nadine are surely the grandparents.
What an example they have been for Colorado State. How proud everyone associated with CSU has to be of Jim and Nadine, so this is great. Jim and Nadine, they're in their own category. They're special people.
Please congratulate the 2002 Hall of Fame inductees and this year's Hall of Honor Award winner.
Tonight, we pay tribute to the 2002 Hall of Fame and Hall of Honor Award winners. They represent 5 decades of athletic and academic excellence. We celebrate the determination, motivation, and accomplishments of athletes both past and present. Their desire and courage to reach for lofty goals inspires the resolve of those who compete today.
Go Rams, I love you.